Okay, this is Kelly Brown of the Married Gamers, and I am interviewing Ian Kinsey. And Ian, you are from SemiFormal Studios.
Yeah.
And you guys have decided to do something pretty huge that a lot of indie studios don't do with Indie Crashes E3. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Indies Crash E3. Well, first off, we're attending E3. We have a booth between Nintendo and DreamWorks. And when we were going through the process of getting the booth set up, we basically realized that it's not just expensive, it's ridiculously expensive, right? And not only that, but all the regulations are set up for the big guys. They're not made at all for any little companies or small teams to get in. And it's not just presenting, it's also even attending E3 is ridiculously hard if you don't have a corporation set up and all those trappings. So in that process, we were kind of like, well, our booth came with, I think, 60 passes. There's no way we can use anywhere close to all those.
Right.
So if we use maybe 10, 15 of them for, our people, we have this group left there. What if we tried helping the indies get in? So we kind of started coming up with some ideas for how we could do it. Could we just give them out? Could we just find some really indies that we really like? Because we went to GDC, checked out the IGF, and there were some good ones there. But we ultimately decided, we shouldn't be the ones to decide. Let's let people just pick their favorites. Right. So we kind of came up with the idea of doing a contest, and came at it from the angle of what if we let players nominate their favorites and then let people vote for those. And to reward them, the nominator gets to go as well, and that's kind of how it came to be. Now,
the website. What is the website if people want to go and vote for their favorite indie sites or anything like that?
So right now we're up at indiescrashe3.com.
Okay.
Basically, we have the top 10 right on there on the homepage. You can view all the nominations. You can set up your own right on the homepage, and it's all right there.
Now, what do you do when people nominate? Like, let's say Chris and I were to nominate the same studio. So you've got two people that are nominating the same studio. How do you kind of weed that out?
So all the rules make sense to us, I think. Basically, it's the nomination that's important. So you have to list your reason for nominating them. So if you guys nominate, let's say FTL, and then Bill Gates nominates FTL, and he just says it's a cool game,
right?
And you guys give a really passionate description of why they should go, or maybe their team, or the game itself, or the gameplay,
right?
You're probably going to get more votes, right?
Okay.
So it's the person who nominated them. That's the person who basically gets the votes for it. So it's very specific.
Oh, okay. So you and your team came up with this idea, and it's caused a bit of controversy on the internet.
A little bit lately, yeah.
Penny Arcade posted an article. Ben Katura posted an article. How do you guys respond to those kind of hatreds that you end up with?
It's tough because we're not trying to really do this for anything but altruistic reasons. We're just trying to kind of affect what we think is a positive change at E3 and in the industry. So we don't want to really give it a backlash. We don't want to hurt the Penny Arcade report. We don't want to basically insult anyone, but it does feel a little bit unfair. We talked with him via email, and he had a deadline, and so it kind of cramped things to where he couldn't really wait for us to give him all the details.
Right.
And just kind of posted what he thought was going on. And again, it felt kind of unfair to have a negative kind of article posted about us when we're really just trying to help people out. And basically what it came down to was he was trying to do his research, and this was Andrew Groen. I think he just joined the Penny Arcade Report a couple weeks ago. He was talking to the ESA, Entertainment Software Association, and he was talking to us. And they were telling him, probably a different group of people in the organization than we were talking to, they were saying that there's no way you can't give out your passes that way. And the people we were talking to were from the beginning, before we even started it, said, not a problem. You can give them out however you want as long as they're part of the industry, which we already figured out. So what it came down to is we just gave a call to Dan Hewitt, the guy who runs the entire thing, said, hey, this is what your guys told us. This is what we want to do. It's still good, right? And basically all we had to figure out was how they wanted us to document that people were sending. That's all it was. And there was never any controversy objectively, but the article made it seem like, there's a question, are these people going to get in? And it really did hurt the campaign. I mean, for a while there, we were getting 40, 50, 60,000 unique visits a day. And after that article, it dropped down to maybe 5. So it was a huge hit. And we're starting to kind of ramp up now. The last couple days, we're picking up, we're at like 15 or 20,000 unique a day, but it's hard. I mean, fighting back from that bad press. And it did make a follow-up, to be fair, but it didn't really get linked to from the original article, and that original article lingered on the homepage all weekend, whereas the other one was relegated to kind of some sub-page, and so it kind of continued to hurt us for the next couple of days after that until we could really get the word out.
Right. So when a person goes onto the website and wants to, say, vote for their studio, do they get an unlimited amount of votes, or how many votes do they get per studio or whatever?
So 1 person, 1 vote is basically the rule. We have caption, we limit so that you can't use the same email, but obviously some people have multiple emails and are willing to just put it in a couple of times. There's not really a good way of regulating that when we're getting, thousands of votes a day.
Right.
So what we're going to do is, if there's any contention, or maybe 2 of the top 2 are really close, or maybe number 10 and 11 are really close, we'll try to, we have a few methods in mind of estimating the percentage of non-unique votes.
Okay.
And if it's disproportionately high, everyone's going to have at least a couple of duplicate votes. There's no way to regulate that, right?
Right.
But if someone has 90% and another person only has 10% unique votes, there's a huge issue with that.
Right.
So that's how we're going to basically try to regulate it.
So now, you guys have been working on a game for a while now. We saw it last year at the, oh my goodness, the
59 Days of Code?
59 Days of
There
Code. And your guys' booth, you had tons of people there. So you
we get a
obviously
little bit
have
better at it every time, yeah.
you obviously have a huge following.
It's pretty good.
Can you tell us a little bit about the game that you guys created and how long it's been taking you to do this?
It's been a really interesting process. It was started by myself and Jesse Martinez. He did the art, I did the development, and this was maybe 4.5 years ago. And we kind of just started as a side project. The idea really sprouted from Age of Empires. That was one of our favorite RTSs. And what if that was kind of persistent, never ended, and it was just on this giant map? So kind of an MMO, Age of Empires. It's kind of grown since then, but we worked on it for years and years and years. Consistency was really key, because maybe it's 2 hours one day, but maybe it's 8 the next, but every day just really putting in effort. And after until I guess late last year, we started saying, okay, we're in a pretty good state, but there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done before we can start making money with this, putting people on it, selling it. So we decided, okay, we can work on this for the next 2 years by ourselves and reap the benefits, or we could try to speed things up and find an investor. So late last year, we talked to an associate that I had, and really we're just asking him if he knew anyone who might be interested. And immediately he looked at it, saw the potential, and just wanted part of it. And so he bought a portion of the company. We still retain a vast majority of it, but we got enough capital to go to E3, to hire some developers, and to really push things. Instead of 2 years of Jesse and I doing it, we have, I think, 6, 7, 8 people-ish, depending on how you count it. And it'll be done for open beta, and the cash shop for purchasing things will be in there by E3, so by June.
Oh, wow. Now, a lot of people seem to forget that indie studios, you guys don't always do this full time. You have other jobs outside of it, and this started out as a hobby and then became almost a full-time job on top of your other full-time jobs. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you balance the real life to the making a game?
It's over long periods of time. It's really, really, really hard, to be honest. The first, 6 months, it's easy. It's kind of a honeymoon period. You love the concept, you love the idea, and you never really stop loving it. But it gets tedious. You start realizing how arduous going through all the little pieces you have to build is, and you keep working at it. But if you have to try to balance that with work, you have another project you have to work on, and kind of that starts consuming your time. You start questioning things. You start saying, is this really going to make us money? Or are we even going to be able to make it to the finish line? And you also have periods of kind of burnout, I guess is the best way to put it. You don't feel like you hate it or you don't want to work on it. You just feel like you want to do something new, or you want to do something maybe a little bit less tedious, because it does get tedious for a while. But sticking with it and just really being passionate about the idea has helped us, and we basically just stuck it through. Even when there was, maybe sometimes there would be a week or 2 weeks where we didn't work on it, but then we made sure we jumped back on it with a new kind of renewed effort, and we just never really let it go, and that was kind of really key to making it this far.
Do you think it was hard for you and Jesse, your partner, to bring on other developers who haven't had that beginning initial passion for the game, to bring them kind of up to speed and have them have that same passion with you?
There's a lot of difficulties transitioning from a small group of kind of founders just passionate about the idea to a team who's being paid to work on it. One, you have to kind of convey that passion to them and get them excited about it. That's really important. You don't want people just working 9 to 5. Oh, I did this today. I did this today. You want them passionate about making the game good. You want them to give you input and really want to make it a great game. In addition to that, you have to get them up to speed. By the time we had got our developers on, I think the code base was maybe 100,000 lines.
Oh, wow.
It was huge. So, and there's all these different facets, from the items to the skills to the exploration to the buildings, and getting up to speed on all those different things on the server and on the client, that's a lot. And so there was definitely a month, maybe a month and a half of them just making progress, but trying to figure out how this all worked. And some of the algorithms we had built in there are pretty complex, so wrapping your mind around some of those is very difficult. And then in addition to that, just making sure you have the right people for the job. That's one of the first guys we hired as our lead was not working out. So, I mean, you don't want to kill your company. You have to keep a careful eye on it. And within 2 weeks, we had to let him go. So the team we have now, though, is really, really great.
Oh, that's good. So now if one of our listeners or many of our listeners want to be able to go and check out Ensemble Online before it actually goes into beta to see if it's something they want to get into, how do they go about doing that?
If you go to playensemble.com right now, there's a sign up for beta list. You basically just have to put in your email. What we're thinking about doing is, so June 11th is our tentative date for open beta. That's E3. Probably the few weekends before that, we'll do closed beta weekends from the people who have registered on that list. So if you want to get in, that's your best chance. I can't guarantee it, but that's definitely your best chance.
Now, when you're saying this is a game that's going to be like continuously, it's not going to just, right. You're not going to have an end roll credits type game. There can be thousands of people playing this game at the same time.
Yeah.
Is that going to cause servers to slow down at all, or do you guys already have that addressed knowing that?
So we actually, when I say we have a great team, I really mean it. The guy who's leading the development now kind of took over what my mantle was before. Ken Rayleigh, he used to scale Amazon's video on demand services. So he has tons of experience making things efficient, making them effective, and knowing exactly what we can and can't do with given hardware. So he's very talented, and he's come up with a system. He basically took what I had written, and without spending a lot of time rewriting stuff, kind of, I guess you could say, change the architecture around to better scale. And now we're estimating we can handle about 1,000 concurrent users with the current setup we have. We can scale that later, but estimating a percentage of maybe at most 15% of your fan base on any given time, which is pretty high. That's still a substantial number of people we can support, right?
Right.
So basically the plan is limit it, to what we know we can handle, so no one, adding 100 more people doesn't make everyone lag, right? And then if we're constantly at that cap that we're enforcing, we start figuring out, okay, what do we need to do to go to the next level?
Right. Now, this is a game that's coming out of Fresno, of all places. Yeah. It's not coming out of Silicon Valley. It's not coming out of LA or anything like that. What made you guys decide to stay with your home roots and stay within Fresno and not go to someplace like the Silicon Valley or LA where you could get kind of a hub of other people developing with you?
Well, Silicon Valley is cool, LA is cool, but Fresno is where we grew up, and there's not really a good tech presence, let alone a gaming presence here in terms of gaming companies. After Sierra left Oakhurst, the whole valley basically is kind of barren. There's a couple of little shops here and there, but nothing big. And I think it would be a lot more substantial to us to make something here than to make just another game company in LA or in San Francisco. So in addition to that, we do support the area. We are all for all the local stuff. We want to get more developers here. It's just something that we aren't really, I would say, leading the charge on that front of trying to grow it, but we're definitely supporting the people who are. And we just think it would be a lot more amazing to have a really awesome game company here than just another one somewhere else. So
now, E3 is your first time outside of Fresno showing the game.
Right.
Where are you guys going to go beyond that?
It's tough. It depends. E3, to be honest, is a crazy move. I would wager to say no one's done anything this crazy. We're taking most of our capital to do this. To go to E3 to have a booth there is so expensive. Mm-hmm. And I'd say we're probably one of the smallest companies there too. If it goes well, which so far it's looking like it might, we'll probably try to do PAX. We might try to do an Indies Crash PAX. We're kind of weighing the options here, but PAX is an option, and other than that, it's kind of doing some more grassroots advertising, maybe some online ads, and that'll be kind of our marketing strategy. E3 really is our big push, so that is our main focus for sure.
Is there anything else that you want to let our fans know about the company or about the game?
I mean, it's really just, I don't know. If you're an indie developer, don't give up hope. That's really important. A lot of developers start working on something and then they realize how hard it is, and it makes them question things. We had the same issue, but don't give up. Maybe you'll flop, who knows, but if you're passionate, that's the only way you're going to do it, is stick to it. And hopefully with Indies Crash E3 and with our continued movements, we can make continue that indie wave we've seen over the last few years and make it bigger and hopefully specifically make E3 more friendly to the indies too.
Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us and get your information out there to our fans.
Absolutely.